this meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we're going to turn it over to Mrs. Doyen, Dr. Doyen.
It's not up there yet. Sorry, we're just waiting for the PowerPoint to come up. I'm going to carry this. It's kind of awkward and weird, but I'm going to start with just a review of the FY25 proposed budget. So we always start as the administrative team thinking about what's best for our students, and then how do we support our current employees, and then how do we respond to our community concerns? 3 guiding questions that we use every year. We had good news going into this budget. Our ED 279, which is our state subsidy, was up $319,571.16. That is in large part because the state has determined that they would take on 2% more of the cost this year than last year, and that adds up in a hurry. And our free and reduced numbers went up significantly over last year. If you recall, they had kind of gone down quite a bit when breakfast and lunch became free for all. Not a free for all, but free for all students. And so we worked really hard at getting the news out to our parents that it still was important for them to fill out those forms because it does impact our subsidy. And with our parents doing that and the additional of the state's 2%, we got quite a bit more money this year. We also ended up with some bad news. We had 10% in for insurance costs because we know it can increase year to year. Unfortunately, when we got our rate, it actually went up 11.4%, which was a huge hit, which meant additional money going into the budget. I think it's important each year to look at negotiated increases as well. So these are the increases since RSU 56 withdrew from RSU 10. And I just gave you from year to year what they were. And I'm not going to read them all to you, but let's just look across the one that says at the top, BGT. That's our building, grounds, and transportation crew. So in the first year, they got a 2% raise. Second year, 2% raise. Third year, 3%. Fourth year, 2%. Fifth year, 2%. Sixth year, 2%. Seventh year, 2%. This year, when they negotiated, was agreed upon as a 5% increase going into the 24-25 school year. And that may seem like it's a lot, but it's really important that we pay our employees enough for them to want to stay here. And we had gotten behind with those lower percentage increases year after year. So you look across, and in the 8 years that we've been RSU 56, this is our 8th budget, they've had an average of a 2.5% increase year to year. So that still is pretty low compared to some other areas. So I just wanted to point out that we have done that. And you can see that we also did ed techs this year, similar situation. They're getting a 5%. Same thing with administrators. They actually still are only at 2.25% over the time that we've been RSU 56 because they did take a 0% one year to help get a budget passed. So all in all, I think that our employees deserve these increases. And I think our board, when they did negotiations, negotiated in good faith and tried to get them comparative to other area schools. So with that being said, with that insurance increase and our negotiated increases, payroll and benefits alone are up $675,636. That constitutes 5% increase budget to budget, just with those items. All other areas, which would include our electricity increases, a little bit of technology increase, JMG, we had to pay a little bit more this year than we did last year. Those were $66,604, which was another 0.5%. So that would have put the budget at 5.5% budget to budget increase. And that the FY 24 budget, the one we're currently in, is $13,564,319. The proposed budget would have increased $742,240, getting to that 5.5. However, the board had already agreed on 5.3, so the administrative team went back through and got us back to that 5.3. So one thing that did happen in our favor between when the board voted 5.3 and then the insurance came in was that Region 9 did come in just over $3,000 less than they had previously said. Mary and I scoured the entire budget. We found $3,577 in electricity that we thought we could squeeze out of there. We took out board meeting streaming moving forward for $6,000. We also looked at nutrition, which we always put in money to help support that program. It is not a for-profit program, so we have to support it a little bit. We felt like we could take that 5207 out. Course reimbursement. So in our contracts, if teachers or any employee asks to take a class, they have the right to take it per contract. Typically, there's more asked for than what's actually used. So we backed out the 2877 out of that. And then we backed out 4,000 in the subline. It had gone up significantly through COVID. And then it seemed like it had come back down a little bit this year. So we felt like we could take that out. So that was our total of 24,712 to get us back to the 5.3 budget to budget increase. These cuts were also considered by the board. These were very tough decisions to determine whether to go with that 5.3 or to go lower. The board looked at, to get to 5%, we would have had to have cut middle school Nordic, high school Nordic, winter cheering, some middle school clubs, and the AD assistant. And then they looked at what would it take to get below 5, and that would be everything that I just said, plus a teacher at Derigo High School. And your board decided that those cuts would negatively affect students, and they did not want to make those cuts. And they stayed at 5.3%, putting our students first. So the FY 24 to 25, 5.3% increase makes it a total of $14,281,847 for our total budget. We have an impact of Canton at 3.53%, Carthage at 4.43, Dixfield at 10.35, and Peru at 5.77. And that Dixfield one, I did go to the Dixfield select person meeting and explained that for whatever reason, the way the Department of Education does the ED 279s, they reevaluate, they do a 3-year reevaluation, and Dixfield went up significantly from last year's ED 279 to this year's 279. So therefore their higher increase. So we thought it was important, Mary and I, that you just saw our budget to budget increase year to year since we've been RSU 56. So obviously the 2017-18 year was our first year of being RSU 56. We had that $12,959,164 budget. The next year, I'm not going to read these all, but next year you can go across and see we were up 1.5. Then we had a year where we were up 3.5, and then 2.0, 0, 1.85, 2.64, and 5.3. And again, this is, I think, just a reflection of our current times with those increases in salaries and benefits. That it's unfortunate. I know that seems like a really high number, but again, I think your board really worked hard to look at what we needed to do and move forward in order to provide the best we can for the students here in RSU 56. So the budget impact on towns from our beginning to now, I think, is also really important, because I know that Dixfield is really high this year at 10.349. But if you look at the center row of Dixfield, overall, their average over the 8 years that we've been RSU 56 is 3.78. So it fluctuates town to town depending on your evaluations. You can see that Canton had some big years, as did Carthage had some huge years when they were dealing with the windmill factor, and then it's come back down. But I think it's important to see over the time of RSU 56 that Canton's had an average increase of 8.76, Carthage 13.12, Dixfield 3.78, and Peru 3.25. So we did get a hold of each of the towns. I got to be clear. When I say we, I mean Mary sometimes. Mary contacted all of the towns and we got this information. So in Canton, on every $100,000 would be $44. For Carthage, $9.25. Dixfield, $62.67, and Peru, $50. Adult ed sits outside the RSU 56 budget, but I feel like it's important that you know that that's also on the ballot. So for FY25, the total for adult ed is $109,600, and you can see the breakout for the 4 towns above that. We have our referendum vote in all 4 towns on June 11th, 2024. And it is time for questions and answers if you have any. Dawn? Is it Dan? Sorry, Dan. Wrong vowel. Yep. I'm looking at Mary. I believe that they just run through a same formula.
So Region 9 tells us that RSU 56 has to pay the 109,600. And then we use the 50% valuation and 50% students to break it down by town. Yes.
Any other questions? Can you just? I don't mind answering them, Dan, the best to our ability, but I'm just wondering if you would be so kind as to use the mic so that everybody, even the people online, can hear
Brian,
you.
can you bring it to him instead? Unless you want to stand up. I don't.
Thank you.
Yes. So for the newspaper, it's helpful to say first and last name. This is Dan McKay.
I'm from Dixfield. That's why I make a lot of noise. Okay, I got so many questions, but first of all, I do appreciate that Mary did make out this line item sheet. One of the things that stuck out to me was the 2 columns, especially appreciate that, where we had an approved budget and beside it, the money expended. And so you take the difference between those 2 figures, and for the years 20 to 21, there's a difference of $562,000. The next year is $215,000. And then year before last is $518,000. But I'm just curious, this money must be accumulating, or where does it go? I know 275, whatever. You carry forward into the budget, 277,500. Where's the balance of that going?
So each year, the amount that is left over goes into fund balance, and that's what goes. There was a vote last year to put some in the bus garage reserve, and the bus garage is being built. So we're doing that with some of that money. And we also have several years of the 277,500 ahead of us, which is good so that we have that amount, because we don't want to not have that carryover amount. And that means that the towns would have to raise more if we didn't have the 277.5 of carryover.
Yeah, I understand that. And it's recurring event. So what it's telling me that most all these budgets that have been approved, you do not come anywhere near the expending the total of it. Not even close here. I mean, here you are, $500,000 for a couple years over the past 4 years. This year looks like it's headed probably another $500,000. I'm just curious if there isn't any way as the town would do what the town does And what they'll do with their excess money, or the surplus is what they call it, surplus, undesignated fund surplus, they'll take a sum of that money for the people to vote on to reduce taxes. Now, this year, their budget has gone up extremely high, as well as yours. So they're saying they're offering up to $500,000 to reduce taxes. Now, they've been doing this for a few years, 300,000, 250,000. And what this is doing, as they explain it to me, is it is covering your increases to keep our tax rate down. I'm just wondering, maybe you could pitch in a little bit more to cover your increases so that the municipal part doesn't have to keep doing this, drawing out of our savings on the municipal side to reduce taxes for everybody in the town of Dixfield. I know you'd have to do it, you'd have to split it amongst 4 towns, but I'm just saying, I mean, this is it's a tight economy. I'm sure you realize that. You could just go up and do a grocery shopping if you don't believe me. I know this the evaluation by the state is hurting Dixfield bad now in a couple ways. Number one, it hurts us on the school budget, as you explained. Well, it also takes money away from people who are on homestead exemption. Last year, it took away enough so everybody's bill went up 80-something dollars. And the tax rate didn't change one bit. It was 21.5 mils. Year before, we got 100% of our homestead. Last year, we only got 80% of our homestead, which meant the bills went up $100 without the tax rate going up. It looks like it's going to keep doing this for a while because the town is not going to do another valuation until 2028, which means if this graph, if you can see this graph, it shows this is Dixfield housing prices. If you can see that graph in the way that's just going up like I mean, that's a steep hill. And it don't look like it wants to stop. So what I'm saying is, all that you can do to help the taxpayers right now would be really appreciated, because in the non-governmental sector, the average raise in Maine, according to the Department of Labor, was 4.5%. The average, and I'm going to double check that, 4.5%. The raise for the Social Security recipients was 3.2%. And there's just a lot, everything has gone up. Gasoline, electricity, it went up for you, but it goes up for everybody in town too. So I don't know if it's a possibility, Mary, of ever looking at that situation. I mean, in our warrant that we vote on, it explicitly says, do you want to take $500,000 out of undesignated surplus to use to reduce taxes? Now, I notice yours is not written up, so you kind of got to know, okay, that $275,000 is applied to the budget. I'm just taking that out. I'm taking a swing. I'm probably going to go into strike 3 here in no time, but I'm going to take a swing at it.
So, and I do appreciate that, Dan, and I have explained to the board on a couple of occasions that if they opted to move more than that 277,500 that we typically use to start building our budget, then we are in a sense, really in effect, building a cliff. So let's say you did 500,000 this year instead of the 277.5, and then next year we don't have the 277.5 or the 500,000, we're now starting in the hole. So I have been, from the time that I started here as your superintendent, I have been very clear, like, we're going to build a budget on real numbers. So if we don't have the 277.5 set aside, it's not going in another year's budget with the hope that we can save it out of the current year budget. And I am not comfortable, even though I'm getting close to retirement, I do not want to set this district up so that they're financially not in a place where they can be solvent moving forward. Because if we use all of our carry forward to do that, we are in effect building a cliff that we no longer can sustain, whether it's 2 or 3 years down the road. And between you and I, I'm not sure it's going to be better in 2 or 3 years. Like, I don't see the,
Well, I wasn't insinuating take the whole sum, whatever was not expended and use that, but use a little bit more. Because it looks like every year is coming out to around 500,000, which is a lot more than 277,000.
yep, but it's also allowed us to do a couple of different things. One, it's allowed us to put money aside to do the things we needed to do. Like when I started here, I was reading former superintendent reports from the 70s saying we needed a new gym floor. So we finally have our gym done by putting money aside, money aside, money aside to get that done. We have needed to be in our own bus garage for a period of time. So we were able to put money aside to do that. We can't do those things if we don't have reserve funds to do that. And secondly, like right now, I'm going to look at Mary. I think it's 3 years. We have 3 years of the 277.5 that we're sitting on, which I think is okay. Personally, as a finance person, I would like to see 5 years sitting there to be able to make sure that we can keep matching that going along. So I don't feel like we're sitting on large amounts of money that is not appropriately designated for future budgets or for things that we're planning on doing, like the current bus garage build.
I guess we'll agree to disagree on that.
I appreciate your agreeability in our disagreement. Any other questions? Don?
Yeah, I just figured out, you're actually sitting on 4 years of the 277.5 at this point. Because we just voted the other day to put the 27 and 28 277.5 away. The other thing I want to bring up, you and I have been arguing over one set of pay raises. You tell me you don't figure compound interest. The problem that I'm looking at, you do figure compound interest, but what you told us was 75,000 would cover it. And the 75,000 won't cover it. This year on their 5% pay raise, it's going to cost us $29,697.09. When we add the 4% the year after, 25 and 26, going to cost us $54,642.64. When we add the 3% in 27, 26, we're going to go up to $74,100.18. That's a grand total of $158,439.91. And if you figure that back on the people that got the pay raises, one of them comes in at $21,235, one comes in at $26,544, another one comes in at $25,280, another one $25,280, one comes in at $16,280, another one $20,917, another one $22,735. The problem I'm having with it being on the school board is sometimes you give us numbers that are not even close to what is actually happening. You tell me you don't figure compound interest, but this $158,439.91 that goes to the taxpayers, you do figure the compound interest on it.
So I think the difference in the view in that, Don, I'm going to try to explain it one more time for everybody, is that, sorry, Brian, I think I'm used you in the paper too, but so if we take, and I'm just going to say technology director, from current salary to the new 3-year contract, when it is 5% year 1, 4% year 2, 3% year 3, there is a total of somewhere just over $9,000 increase from current salary to the 3-year out salary. Does it cost us over time? Yes, because what you give somebody in an increase in year 1, you don't take away in year 2. So you have that. 5% in year one, which is, I don't have it off the top of my head. Let's say it's 3,000. And then in year two, they still have that and you're going to get 4%. So you're going to get that additional on top of that. You don't take away the year one increase. So the cost of payout over those 3 years is different than what somebody actually gets for a raise. Like they're not getting a $20,000 raise. They're going from current salary to in 3 years, they're going to be making 9,000 something more than they currently are. So I don't know how else to explain that. Brad's nodding his head, so I'm hoping it's clear. But if I can be more clear on that, I would happily do so. Brad?
I want to speak for the rest of the board, but we have been back and forth on that issue. I was on the negotiating committee, still am technically, and the numbers are very clear. If we're talking about Brian, let's say we're talking a $9,000 raise over 3 years. And it would be very easy to misunderstand it because let's say you have an employee that makes $100,000 a year, not real number, but $100,000 a year, and you give them a 5% raise, it's $105,000 that they're going to be making after that raise. At the end, when year two comes along, you don't deduct the 5,000 and then give them a 4% raise. And we've been back and forth on this. And I think it's pretty clear. In fact, I don't remember the board having a big fight or a disagreement with this. And unfortunately, Don, I think it sits with you.
Any other questions? So the first order of business then for our meeting is to elect a moderator. Do I have any nominations? Terry? Do I have a second on that? Charlie seconded it. Do I have any other nominations or a vote for nominations to cease? Have a second on ceasing nominations. I see Kenny in the back. All in favor for ceasing nominations? Okay, all in favor of, wait a minute. I have to have this in a paper form. Wait a minute, big. I gotta check to make sure that. Could I have one volunteer to put at least one? Terry, would you like to do that? If you would join me up here. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to have him repeat. I'm going to have him raise his own hand and do this himself.
That's a good start. I, Richard Pickett, do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state so long as I shall continue a citizen thereof, so help me God. I, Richard Pickett, do swear that I will faithfully discharge to the best of my abilities the duties incumbent upon me as a moderator of this meeting according to the Constitution and the laws of the state. So help me God.
Excellent. So if you would just sign this, you will be official. Yeah. Yes, that's you to talk to.
Well, I think before we get started, I want to thank everybody for coming to the meeting. But before we get started, set that in just a second. Is that? Yep. All right. Everybody, can everybody hear me? Okay. So, what I'd like to do, I've got a couple of appointments, I believe this is, ballot clerk oath and the ballot clerk oath, two of them. So if I could have Julie Couture and Earl Couture to come up forward. Instead of having you read it, I'll read it, and then you can each put your name in as I say. Okay. Are we ready? It's going to be the same oath. I state your name.
I, Julie Couture,
Do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state,
so long as I shall continue a citizen thereof,
so long as I shall
Continue
a citizen thereof.
so help me God.
So help me God.
I state your name.
I, Julie Couture,
Do swear
do swear
that I will faithfully discharge to the best of my abilities
that I will faithfully discharge to the best of my abilities
the duties incumbent upon me as a ballot clerk
the duties incumbent upon me as a ballot clerk
of this meeting
of this meeting,
according to the Constitution and laws of the state.
according to the Constitution and laws of the state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Okay, if you'd both taken, I got a pin here, both take and sign your name. This one is Earl, right? I'll give you yours first, Julie. And I'll sign both of them after you both. Earl, if you could take and sign yours. Okay. Thank you very much. These are for. So you all have you should have all got one of these, correct? So if you want to speak, when there's asked for, if there's any discussion, just raise it up. I will try to get the first one and go down the line if I can. And then when we take a vote, obviously, you'll hold it up if you're a yes or hold it up if you're a no afterwards, okay? So that's what these are for. And just before we start, the meeting will be run by Robert's rules. That's what it's called for. And if you would just please take a moment and please turn off your cell phones or place them on vibrate so we don't get any interruptions because of that. If you could do that for me. And if you do receive a call and you must take it, please leave the cafeteria to have that conversation. Secondly, please come to the mic and speak. State your name and also what town you're from, not only for the clerk, but for the press as well, if you could do that for me. And these, the next couple are really important. Please be patient and considerate of others and speak to the moderator, not to another person or official in attendance. All questions will go through the moderator. References to the officials will be by title if you reference an official, okay? Each person will be limited to no more than 2 comments on an article. And if you want to do a third one, then at that point there, we'll have to either get unanimous consent or we'll have to take a vote and you'll have to get 2/3 vote and 2/3 vote in order to speak a third time. And the key to that is to keep the meeting moving. It isn't that I don't want you to be able to talk, but the bottom line is if you do that, then in everything that you say is germane to what the article is, then we can keep the meeting moving and get through it. And the thing is, I want everybody to have an opportunity to speak and talk. I mean, that's what we're here for, to give our opinions, to debate if we want to, and so on and so forth. I just want us to do it in a considerate and fair manner for all, okay? And it should go without saying that any non-resident voter that is not in one of the 4 towns will not be allowed to speak without consent of 2/3 of the voters present. Is there anybody here that fits that category that is going to want to speak? Okay, that being said, I think we're all set with that. Okay. Article 1, to see what sum the regional school unit will be authorized to expend for regular instruction. The school board recommends $4,234,377. Do I have a motion? So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Who seconded? Did you get the second?
It was either Don or Liz, same time.
I know it was. Okay, okay, you got it also. Okay, okay. So do we have any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of raising $4,234,377 for regional school unit? Raise your cards. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Article 2, to see what sum the regional school unit will be authorized to expend for special education. School board recommends $2,975,713. Do I have a motion? Moved up back. Did you get? Okay. And do I have a second? We have a second right there. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your cards. All those opposed, motion carries. Article 3, to see what sum the regional school unit will be authorized to expend for career and technical education. School board recommends $96,649. Do I have a motion? Moved by Carol, seconded by Mr. Dyer. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your card. All those opposed, motion carries. Article 4, to see what sum the regional school unit will be authorized to expend for other instruction. School board recommends $587,447. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Moved and seconded. Do I have any discussion? Yes, sir. Mr. Dyer.
Could we just get a brief description of what other instruction is?
And who would like to respond to that? Mary will have something for you in just a moment.
Other instruction includes summer school, co-curricular, and athletics.
Everybody hear that? Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carries. Article 5, to see what sum the regional school unit will be authorized to expend for student and staff support. School board recommends $1,556,434. Do I have a motion? Moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Do I have any discussion? Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Dyer.
Again, can we get just a brief description of what that line item includes?
Social work, guidance, nurse, curriculum work. Library, technology.
Okay, okay, that answer your question? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Article 6, to see what sum the regional school unit will be authorized to expend for system administration. The school board recommends $563,628. Do I have a motion? Moved in back there. Seconded? We have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Article 7, to see what sum the regional school unit will be authorized to expend for school administration. School Board recommends $618,022, $618,022. $2,200, $22, right? I was right the first time. I'll do that again, $618,022. To have a motion. Seconded. Second. Any discussion?
So I don't think I need that, dear. Uh, does that change that school administration at all?
Like to answer that.
So the board already approved that they would have a full-time principal at Derigo High School and a full-time superintendent. And the other change, instead of having an assistant principal athletic director, they'll be a full-time athletic and activities director. So there'll be one other person, yes. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Good thing I'm in a school. I'm learning how to say numbers. Article 8, to see what sum the regional school unit will be authorized to expend for transportation and buses. School Board recommends $1,137,536. Do I have a motion? Moved. Do I have a second? Seconded. Discussion. Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Article carries. This is too easy. Article 9. I shouldn't be saying that. Probably put a hex on us. To see what sum the regional school unit will be authorized to expend for facilities maintenance. School Board recommends $1,632,903. Do I have a motion? Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Article 10, to see what sum the regional school unit will be authorized to expend for debt service and other commitments. School Board recommends $711,345. Do I have a motion? Moved. Do I have a second? Seconded. Any discussion? Yes, sir. Could you come to the mic and state your name and what town you're from, sir, please?
Peter Stankovic, Carthage. Can you explain what this is for and why we came to that amount?
Would like to respond to that.
That is for the principal and interest on Derigo Elementary School.
Did you get that, sir? Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Article 11, to see what sum the regional school unit will be authorized to expend for all other expenditures. School Board recommends $167,793. Do I have a motion? Moved. Do I have a second? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Yes, sir, Mr. Dyer.
Once again, can we just get a brief description of what that might include?
That's the amount from the general budget that helps food service if needed.
We all set on that, sir?
Why the vague title?
The all other expenditure title,
Yes,
because that's how the state says we have to call that particular cost
totally
center.
makes sense to me. Thank you.
Do I have any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Articles 12 through 14 raises funds for the proposed school budget. Article 12, to see what sum the regional school unit will appropriate for the total cost of funding public education from kindergarten to grade 12, as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, and to see what sum the regional school unit will raise and assess as each municipality's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from kindergarten to grade 12, as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act in accordance with the Maine Revised Statutes Title 20A, Section 15688. Recommended amounts are set forth below. Total appropriated by municipality is Town of Canton, $1,810,972.26. Town of Carthage, $1,145,762.54. Town of Dixfield, $4,970,162.18. Town of Peru, $3,197,011.20, making a total of $11,123,908.18 appropriated, and that sum of the appropriated by municipality. Total raised and regional school unit assessments by municipality: Town of Canton, $730,517. Town of Carthage, $548,467. Town of Dixfield, $1,197,558. Town of Peru, $1,017,825, making a total raised sum of $3,494,000, $3,494,367. An explanation is the regional school unit's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from kindergarten to grade 12, as described in the Essential Programs and Services Act, is the amount of money determined by state law to be the minimum amount that the regional school unit must raise and assess in order to receive the full amount of state dollars. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Do I get a medal for reading that? Just kidding. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Article 13. To see what sum the regional school unit will raise and appropriate for the annual payments on debt service previously approved by the regional school unit voters for non-state funded school construction projects or non-state funded portions of school construction projects, in addition to the funds appropriated as the local share of the regional school unit's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from kindergarten to grade 12. School board recommends $8,163.27. The explanation is non-state funded debt service is the amount of money needed for the annual payments on the regional school unit's long-term debt for major capital school construction projects that are not approved for state subsidy. The bonding of this long-term debt was previously approved by the regional school unit voters. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Article 14 is a written ballot is required. And so we have, you all have it in your, with a yes and a no. Okay, and you only circle it, correct? So I will read the article and you will circle on your written ballot. Does everyone have a written ballot within your packet that says yes and no on it? Okay, do not do anything on it until after we read the article, and then you will circle either the yes or no, and then we drop it in the box, correct? All right. Article 14, to see what sum the regional school unit will raise and appropriate in additional local funds. Recommended $2,805,230.47, which exceeds the state's essential programs and services allocation model by $2,637,437.47 as required to fund the budget recommended by the school board. The school board recommends $2,805,230.47, which exceeds the state's essential programs and services allegation model by $2,637,437.47. The school board gives the following reasons for exceeding the state's essential programs and services funding model. This model does not fully cover the costs of regular classroom instruction, special education instruction, extracurricular and co-curricular student activities, district administration and leadership, student transportation, and school technology. The explanation is the additional local funds are those locally raised funds over and above the regional school unit's local contribution to the total cost of funding public education from kindergarten to grade 12, as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, and local amounts raised from the annual payment on non-state funded debt service that will help achieve the regional school unit budget for educational programs. Do I have a motion? I don't need a motion. We will go to the ballot box. And wait, we need a motion. We need a motion. So moved. Do we have a second? Is there any discussion before we go to the box? Yes, sir.
That sounds crazy, what you just read, but I know we have to. I'm trying to figure out how to ask this question. If I listen to that question, and yes, we were part of the budget process, but not, a lot of us not deeply into it. The implication there, it sounds like the state is saying, we recommend X, but your town has now asked for way more money, $2.6 million more. And just keep me honest here, $2.6 million more than what the state would recommend to fund education. Is that somehow tied to the whole 55% of education? Like how would it be described to make that sound less like we're just grabbing money? Does that make sense? I can try to articulate that differently.
We're getting an answer here, I think.
Okay.
So when the state looks at a school district, they determine that it should cost around X to run it. But it does not include like all of the costs that we have. Extra and co-curricular, they don't include in that. A lot of the transportation stuff, they don't include in that. Like there are just a lot of things that are not included in what the Department of Education thinks you need to run a school district. So it's typically what I've seen, and this is pretty typical of most school districts, is that you end up asking for considerably more than what the state would determine is your bare necessity, essential programs and services.
Follow up to that.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I would follow up with, is it fair to say, you can certainly refuse to answer this, but is it fair to say that the state is unaware of the costs associated with running an RSU?
I'm going to plead the fifth.
I will.
No, I would like to, when essential program and services started, they didn't even go with a percentage. They even shortchanged us for a long time. And they keep changing the percentage. Like for a bus, it used to be 100%, right, Mary? And now you can't even get one, you got to be approved. What they say for a size of an RSU, one nurse is perfectly fine. And we know how many needs there are. So they're aware that they shortchange us with that, but they thought when they changed from the way they funded before, that this was a better system. Yeah.
Is there any other discussion? If not, do not fold your ballot, but make your circle around either your yes or no. Don't fold your ballot and then go to the box and put it in. Yeah. Can you hang on a moment? Earl and Julie should be there to make sure there's only one ballot. Hang on just a moment. That's a good idea.
there a specific time we have to leave the ballot open? Or do I just have to call, last call for vote?
Anybody that has not put a ballot in, please go up and put it in. I see no one getting up and moving. So therefore, they take care of the box, the lock on it. I've got it. It's not a fold. Sometimes I come out of it, sometimes I don't. Thank you. So we can move on, I think, before we can get in when they're ready, but we can, you always wait. Okay, okay, yeah, okay. Okay, that's right.
Yeah. I want to be secure this year. I got older brothers and sisters. So
The vote is 31 yeas to 5 nays.
31 to 5.
It passed.
31 to 5. 31 yes, 5 no's. The yeas get it, the motion passes, and I will give you. Okay, moving along. Article 15 summarizes the proposed school budget. Article 15, to see what sum the regional school unit will authorize the school board to expend from the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025 from the regional school unit's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from kindergarten to grade 12, as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, non-state funded school construction projects, additional local funds for school purposes under the Maine Revised Statutes Title 20A, Section 15690, unexpended balances, tuition receipts, state subsidy, and other receipts for the support of schools. The school board recommends $14,281,847. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Article 16 authorizes expenditures of grants and other receipts. Article 16, in addition to amounts approved in the preceding articles, shall the school board be authorized to expend such other sums as may be received from federal or state grants or programs or other sources during the fiscal year for school and other program purposes, provided that such grants, programs, or other sources do not require the expenditure of the other funds not previously appropriated. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Do I have a second? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Article 17 authorizes the adult education budget for the career and technical region and raises the local share. Article 17, shall the Region 9 School of Applied Technology approve a budget for adult education in the amount of $425,784 for the year beginning July 1st, 2024 through June 30, 2025, with authorization to expend any additional incidental or miscellaneous receipts in the interest and for the well-being of its adult education program, and shall Regional School Unit Number 56 raise $109,600 as its share of the adult education budget for Region 9 School of Applied Technology. Do I have a motion? Moved, second? Moved and seconded. Discussion. Yes, sir.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Real brief comment here. For the folks who haven't been on at the school board meetings, Bruce Ross he serves on the board at Region 9, and he has raved about the attendance this coming year, I think it is. It's enormous. I think one of the bigger attendances they've ever seen. And I want to tie that real quick. Being on the strategic planning committee for RSU56, we did a survey where we asked the community what was necessary. And one of the things that they added was more hands-on skills that they can use now and in the near future. And there was a lot of talk about tech training, and there is a dearth of that. So I fully support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay. Did we vote on that? We didn't vote. I didn't think we voted yet. Right. So there's no further discussion. So you threw me off there, but that's okay. It's okay, Brad. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Article 18 authorizes an expenditure from the Technology Reserve Fund. Article 18, shall the school board be authorized to expend up to $250,000 from the Technology Reserve Fund to acquire network hardware and licensing for the RSU56 wired wireless network, parentheses, the equipment, and return to the Technology Reserve Fund up to $123,200 received as reimbursements for the equipment through the federal E-rate program. Note, approval of Article 18 will not increase the RSU's operating budget or increase the amounts to be raised by each RSU town. Do I have a motion? Seconded? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
Are you laughing? Thanks. Uh, Brian Keene, can you keep me honest here if I don't get this right? It's okay to correct me. My sense is going to pass, but for people to understand this, wireless technology, servers, all the things that make it so that the teachers here, the administrators, the students can do the work they do in an ever increasing technology environment. Would you say, Brian, is this money is the backbone of what lets us do everything that needs to be done? Is that correct?
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, that's correct, Brad. Basically, the network upgrade will replace all of our existing network hardware in the district, all of our switches, firewalls, access points in all the classrooms. It's what connects our devices in the district to outside. So it allows all of our teachers, students to connect to all of our online resources.
Can I respond to that as well?
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. And is it fair to say that there are some accountabilities that come along with having this network? So these upgrades may be attached to guidelines, laws, rules, and that server equipment isn't something that lasts 50 years.
Yeah, so the network hardware is on a 5 to 7 year replacement schedule. I try to make it last 7 to 9 if possible, but with all of the infrastructure changes, legislation changes that have gone on, in order for us to stay up with some of the recommended changes in security and things like that, we're at the point where we're just cresting the 5 year mark with our existing hardware. But in order to stay up with those internet security regulations, we really need to move on it sooner rather than later. The good thing about being able to do it through our E-rate project, we're still waiting for the approval on the E-rate side, but if we are approved for the federal E-rate program, we'll receive 80% of the total bill the federal government will cover. So whatever the total bill is, as long as they approve us, we'll receive an 80% check back. That being said, we're still waiting on that approval. I should be hearing anytime. But our goal is to fund as much of it as we can through the federal E-rate program.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none on Article 18, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Article 19 authorizes the disposition of any additional state subsidy received. In the event that the regional school unit receives more state education subsidy than the amount included in its budget, shall the school board be authorized to use 25% of the additional state subsidy to increase expenditures for school purposes in cost center categories approved by the school board, to use 25% of the additional state subsidy to transfer to the capital reserve fund for maintenance of plant and minor remodeling, and to use 50% of the additional state subsidy to decrease the local cost share expectation as defined in Title 20A, Section 15,671A, parentheses 1, parentheses B, for local property taxpayers for funding public education as approved by the school board. Do I have a motion? Second? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Article 20 authorizes transfers among cost centers. Article 20, shall the school board be authorized to transfer amounts exceeding 5% of the total appropriation for any cost center to another cost center or among other cost centers for the 2024-2025 fiscal year, provided that transfers shall not be permitted to increase the authorized total school budget.
So moved.
Motion. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
Could somebody give a brief description of what a cost center is?
So it's all of those ones that we just did. Article 1 is the cost center for regular instruction. Article 2 would be special education and so forth. So there are times that one area may run over and another area would be under. The example that I use, sorry, Kenny. The example that I use is sometimes Kenny has something that malfunctions in one of the schools and he needs to replace it. And that money may not be in the facilities department budget. So I might put a freeze or reduce another area so that we can move that money over there to deal with that emergency.
Any other discussion? Yes, ma'am.
We usually inform the board when we do those things, but this gives us the ability to do that. It gives the board the ability to do that. So they would always we would tell them, they would be like, yep, good to go, so that we're not like.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And I want to thank you for the good meeting we had, the swift meeting we had, and the politeness used and people are speaking. And thank you for the opportunity of being able here to moderate it for you. And I would now take a motion for the motion you've probably been wanting to make for a while. Do I have a second to that? Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor signify by getting up and leaving.
Route 108 is closed. The road is, fire department has issued a, that 108 is closed, so if you're headed out and you're going that way, contact the emergency center. Yeah. Yeah, from Main Street and Auburn Road to the intersection of Valley Road. The road's closed till further notice. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're very welcome.